you know why? I think as a Black person, why people talking about the woke bothers me is because I don't even feel like the Democrats did woke in a way that was for Black people. They did it for white liberals. So I also think it's hard because there's all this decisiveness in the name of us. And like it's not even what we wanted or asked for. And then everybody's being like, well, all this at you. But people online are being like, the things that they did in the name of you have turned us off of this party so much, or in the name of trans folks, or in the name of queer folks. And I don't even see a lot of them being like, this is what I want. And so then there's like this weird dynamic happening where it's like people are so anti all the things that the Democrats are doing, but the Democrats, it didn't feel.
You just nailed it.
It wasn't a reflection of us.
I think that is it. Like they're doing things that don't resonate with
they don't have a base
reality.
Right now. They don't really have a base.
But I feel like the policy is closer to reality than the policy that Trump proposes.
Yes.
Like, that's the part that's hard for me. It's like, even if the rhetoric feels more relatable for a lot of people with Trump, but I don't agree with that. But if people feel like he's using plain language, he's being relatable, he's speaking to their feelings. I don't feel like, I just don't feel like the things that he's proposing are in any way based in reality.
All I need is just saying, yeah. Better nights, better days when you're here with me, babe. 'Cause you're all that I crave. So I wonder, where are you? Don't hide away from me when I need you most. We got love guaranteed, and I have to know. Say, where are you?
Under his eye.
Under his eye.
Hello, welcome to Therapy Rebranded, where we're consistently inconsistent.
Ding.
Let's just get into some Reddits. I can't even.
I know,
talk
bro.
about anything else. I need to warm up.
Yeah, same. Okay.
One eye's been smaller than the other eye since he won. It's crazy. It's permanently twitching.
Where's my camera here?
All right, let's get it going.
Am I the asshole? I'm calling off my engagement after my partner revealed he is MAGA. Sorry, I had to do it once.
Good break from the conversation.
My fiance and I have been together since 2013 when we met in college. He struggled to get a well-paying job, and during his long bouts of unemployment, must have been radicalized to blame everyone else. Is that you? I chalked it up to depression and tried to get him help with therapy. I paid for him to return to school to become a nurse too, but he still has not completed the prereqs after 7 years.
Pause. Are they unmarried and she paid for him to go to college?
Yes. Get up.
Girl.
Stand up. He currently works gig jobs while I'm a nurse in California, making close to $400K a year. Damn, I missed out. Working a full-time and a part-time job.
I just want to say, if she's a nurse making close to that much, she's either like a nurse practitioner. First of all, she's probably a nurse practitioner. I don't know, or like a nurse anesthesiologist kind of specialty.
Thing.
Or she literally works 80 hours a week because she hates her partner that much, and half of her income is overtime. Yeah, one of the two. Because full-time and part-time jobs, crazy.
Nuts. In healthcare. I was hoping to save up enough to not have to work after having a baby since I cannot rely on him. We were planning to get married next year and wanted to try for a baby. Of course he does. He knows I am very liberal and all about women's rights. He never openly expressed support for MAGA until after Trump won and said Trump will help the economy, white knuckles the table, and Trump will finally allow him to get a good job. I told him that it was the easiest time to get a job in the past 20 years in 2021, yet he couldn't because he's a bum. I said that, not her.
He's one of those guys who thinks certain jobs are below him. Just go get a job. Just go be employed and work your way up.
Go to a temp agency. I am not giving into sunken costs and staying, and he didn't know. But he did make offhand comments before on women losing their worth the older they get. And I questioned him, and he said it was a joke. Of course. The past week has been miserable listening to him talk nonstop on how great Trump is and how he will turn everything great again. Sorry, I had it and gave him notice to leave by the end of the month, and we are through. He said it's unfair and told me it's stupid to give up on us over just politics. The very fact he said that solidified the notion that he's so clueless and our values are too different.
That's the problem, that he voted for Trump.
Right. After 11 years, bitch.
And this email, that's the problem.
Right.
It is a problem, but that's not the problem in this email.
He will likely have to move back into his parents' home or be homeless since he makes less than $35K a year in the most expensive region in the USA. Literally. Am I the asshole for throwing away my relationship of 11 years over politics? I wish politics was boring again. No, you're not an asshole.
Politics was never boring.
Exactly.
Maybe she means it in a different way, but I feel like at least most of our lifetime.
It's never been boring.
It's never been boring. I mean, I think you guys need to break up. So if this is the reason, this is the reason. I do think something about, let's say, for shits and giggles, that she really was okay with him being a bum. And even though she wants to be a stay-at-home mom for a little bit after she has the baby, but let's say she's okay with it.
Or even that he has a good job.
Or even
whatever,
that he has
if it's just the politics thing, right?
Yeah, but I feel like it's not, because she wouldn't have said all of this if it wasn't. He's not a catch.
Mm-hmm.
What if it was, though, for you guys is what I'm saying.
If he was a catch?
No, I'm saying he's not a catch. Like, what if he had a great job and he still voted for Trump?
Like, if you went home tonight and your significant other was like, I got to say, I'm liking what this Trump guy's saying. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
can I be totally honest?
Fisticuffs, domestic.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, my total honesty is that if he said that he liked Trump for the reasons that she just laid out, I would think he's stupid.
Yeah.
And I'd be
That's true.
really upset about him being stupid. I'd be more upset about him being stupid than being a Trump supporter.
I totally
shit
agree.
you not. If she laid out,
Yes.
if he was like, and if he said he was going to vote for Kamala Harris and he thought it was going to get him a job tomorrow,
You're still
I would
stupid.
be concerned. Like, this is
Yes.
full stupidity.
The president's going to allow you to get a job.
And like, this is simply put, your fiance clearly either A, doesn't ever really want to work and so is perpetually looking for a job in quotes, or B, he's dumb as rocks and thinks that he's not and all these other jobs are below him.
Probably the latter.
And like, I just don't understand how it took him 7 years to not finish nursing school. I don't even know why you were funding that. You're also kind of dumb as rocks.
That's what I was going to say. And how the fuck, I think she added a zero or something to that 400,000.
I was
that's
just
insane.
thinking that. There's no way you're making $400K, bro.
So I'm like, she has to have a special, like she has to be like, what?
Well, she owns the hospital. Like,
She's on the board of directors. And this is her pool boy. Sorry. That's why she's funding it.
Yeah. So no, I also don't think you have to have a good reason to end a relationship.
That's the one.
That's kind of just like,
as soon as you don't want to be in it, you shouldn't be in it.
Can you sleep with the reason? Like, can you lay your head down at night and that's a good enough reason you gave up your partner? Then that's what you should do.
Wow.
Like, this is,
unhappiness is enough of a reason.
It's not even that. It's just like, you already broke up with him. Like, are you regretting it? Is that why you came to Reddit?
People must be like, or he's trying to get her back.
The real tea is that if you graduate in college in, let's see, we've been together since 2013. We met in college. Okay, let's say you graduated college in 2015. And when you graduated college, you were 22. So let's say that you're now 30s, early 30s. Is this really about the fact that now you can't, are you regretting it or thinking about it again because now you have to put your baby plan on pause? Like this,
you're
like
really resentful for that.
Yeah. Or like just I don't know, there's something weird about it because throwing away, there's nothing to throw away. Threw away the future you sold yourself.
So y'all were together in college and this is low key like when you're supposed to break up with him.
Yeah.
That's also just like what people say. But can you guys explain or talk about, because I'm very interested in this whole like you don't need a reason thing. Because like I agree on one hand, right? Like obviously if you're not happy, you don't want to be there.
Yeah.
But like just as an example,
it doesn't mean don't try.
People who ghost people, right? Like, oh, I just don't like it. I'm just like out of here. Like to me, that's a low character move.
Depends on the relationship to me.
Well, sure. There's always, yes, there's always
exceptions.
But I don't know. To me, just bailing when suddenly you don't like something for a minute, that feels like a losing effort in your life. Like over the long run.
It's not sustainable, but it's not about you owing. I feel like if you're trying in a relationship, it should be because you owe it to yourself or the relationship, not the other person. And so like when you say ghosting, I think ghosting is lame, but it's not because you exited. It's how you exited.
Right. It was avoidant.
Yes,
so,
100%.
So I think like it's okay to exit for any reason you want to exit. I think how you handle the exit reflects your character.
Agreed.
I also think if you are leaving a long-term relationship casually or just like dipping out, like there's probably some part of you that was being disingenuous and like not being honest with your partner when you like started to not feel that way. There's no way after 11 years this is the first time she's thought about this. You don't think when she's working nights and comes home and he's on the fucking couch, she doesn't think about leaving? No way.
Right.
No way.
Woman to woman, she thought about it.
Yeah.
Had to. It'd be almost crazy for you to just make that decision overnight, kind of, I guess.
To be totally honest, a lot of women, it's not just that he's not showing up for you. There's also something embarrassing about a woman, like explaining your life to your friends, family, and you don't have to, but it's embarrassing to be with a man who doesn't work. It just is. Yeah. It's really embarrassing, especially if you have like parents. Like
especially if you have people in your life.
This man smiles in your dad's face? No way.
And you make $400.
Your dad shakes his hand? No way. I don't see
on
it.
On the flip, it's the same thing.
Your pussy gets wet for him? No way.
No way.
It's like the guys I know who, and like I love sex workers, right? Like I have no issue with all that stuff, but a lot of guys who are date sex workers and stuff, like you see that same kind of thing in them, like where they kind of just struggle at family events and stuff like that because it's a defensive thing.
Sure.
So yeah.
I'm sure.
And it's not like, this isn't shitting on sex workers. They're damn near social workers. Sex workers.
They are social workers.
Yeah. It's not shitting on sex workers at all to say that there are social consequences that come with dating a sex worker.
I feel like it's
That's
validating.
not fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's not okay. Yeah. Like it's not how it should be in quotes. But like your partner is signing up for those consequences too.
There are for comedian, and as you guys I'm sure will encounter, there are for podcasters. Like there are like you put yourself out publicly, like there's gonna be shit. Like yeah.
Yeah, sure. And so like you are kind of eating something when you go to Christmas and your mom's giving you those stares. It's not fair. But I'm just saying like that shit sucks. Context. It just does.
Yeah, it does.
It just does. All right. So this is our first time shooting since Trump became president-elect. I have a list of like different angles I really want to take, but the first one I want to take, which is not original, I've heard it on Trevor Noah's podcast. I heard it on Bill Maher. I heard them talking about it on CNN, which is, did Trump win or did Kamala Harris lose? Did the Dems lose, I guess I should say. Because I think that there's a lot of people who feel like Trump's win is a referendum on the country and this kind of notion that it reflects how most people feel, and other people feel like, I don't know, some of the country saw it as a lesser of two evils. I don't know if I agree with that, but or it was an anti-Democrat kind of stance. I don't know. What do you think?
That she was an anti-Democrat stance?
That voting for Trump was taking a stance against the Democrats.
It's weird.
Do you think Trump won, or do you think the Democrats lost, or Kamala Harris lost?
Can it be a little bit of both?
Of course.
I think it's a little bit of both. I see it as we already knew what the country was and wasn't. I feel like this is a reflection of the country. Yes. Oh, thank you, Gabe. Well, thank you, Jave, actually. And it's not even her fault or not. It was just like not made for, it was just not the best time for her to win. And misogyny and sexism played a huge role. But I do think it was not at like every angle, whether it's a conservative angle or like a more liberal angle. Like I actually agree. Like her campaign didn't. I don't want to put it squarely on her, but her campaign didn't do, I feel like, what they needed to do.
What didn't they do that they needed to do?
I don't know. Yeah, what do you think?
I think that Trump won. I think that Trump won. Yeah. I think that Biden won last time. I think Trump won this time. I think that I do think
he definitely won.
Yeah, he won. But not even in the way of like he won the election. Like I mean like
by a landslide he won.
Not even that. People voted for him. Like, people came out for him. I think a lot of the votes cast in Trump's favor were in favor of Trump. And I think that there's a lot of conversation around it not being in favor of Trump, of it being all these other things. And I think people are just too afraid to outwardly say, I really like Trump.
Yeah.
And so there's all this kind of around conversation of why they're voting for him. But I think it's because of the stigma that comes with supporting him. I don't think that they actually don't like him and voted for him, because if you look at kind of the numbers, a lot of people stayed home that could have voted on the Democratic side.
Yeah.
And chose not to.
That's true.
I think one way that the Democrats did I think that one of the ways the Democrats did, quote unquote, lose is that I feel like switching candidates at the last minute really screwed them.
Yeah. It was just, like it was hard to come back from that.
And I think they had to.
I agree.
But I think that,
like, people were saying the primaries were going to make, who else were they going to run in the primaries? Nobody.
I don't know. But I think that there has been such a culture shift over the last decade in terms of what is true and what is not true, and how people see news media and how people view what politics is and what politics means. Mm-hmm. I think that it's no longer enough to say vote because you don't like the other person. I don't think that, and maybe it was never enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to be the pull.
It's not sticking with people enough.
I also think that these red swing states, I feel like we don't live in any of those states, but from everything I was seeing on the internet in terms of like media coverage, they've been having like nonstop, like, what is it called? Commercials, like nonstop commercials, nonstop like ads. Campaigning ads, like those are the places. Stuff. Those are the places that were really targeted, I think, by, quote, both sides. And I think that Trump's campaign did a better job of messaging to them what they wanted to hear.
Like more incendiary messaging? Like what specifically about the messaging? Like just to...
I think that this also is an original point. I forgot where I heard it. But I think that a lot of Democrats care about, not always, but often care about the promises that they make being tangible, being something that they could actually follow through and do. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that Trump cared about that at all. I think he will promise anything. And
he's a salesman.
Yeah. And I think that
people like that.
He just, whatever was the issue that he thought people wanted to hear, that's what he spoke to. And he said he was going to solve it. And that was done. And he didn't really think about the reality of solving it or like how they're going to fix the problem.
And people don't really care actually if he has a plan or not. Their big critique of her, she doesn't have a plan. He never said he had a plan.
Well, he has a lot of plans.
Well, he says he has a lot of plans, but no like action steps, no like mechanisms to get there. And I feel like people just, they didn't like that. She said she was going to stick to policies, and I can pick that out or not, but he's promising nothing. His are empty promises. I feel like that's worse. Like,
I also don't know how, a Black woman who was put in at the last second could get out of being seen as a DEI candidate. I don't think that there was much she could have done to get out of that, but I think a lot of people feel that way. I think some of this was a culture war against.
And she's going up against he was a sitting president already. That's like, people factor that out. He's already been president.
Yeah. But I think that for some reason, people feel like Trump earned it and she didn't. And
that's insane.
I think that's how people feel.
No. I know.
Yeah, I think people see her as a DEI candidate. I don't think that I don't know if that was a lot of outward conversation about that after the beginning, but I definitely think that people saw her as a symbol of the things that they don't like about this country, which is like she got handed this position she didn't earn because she's a woman and she's a person of color. And I think a lot of people rebelled against that.
And the immigrant stuff. I think people pulled up her immigrant history with like being from, I forget where she's from.
California,
but her parents are from,
I don't know,
Jamaica.
Oh, her origin?
Yeah.
India and Jamaica.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think people cared. I mean, I think people care about her being a person of color. I don't think they care as much about the specifics. I think she kind of reminds me and looks like all of those ads where there's like a racially ambiguous person and then a white person and they have some kids.
Yeah.
Like I really in my heart feel like a lot of people saw her as a DEI candidate, which is so unfair. That's my opinion. I think it's so unfair.
It is unfair. And nobody wants to admit it or talk about that being just in the realm of it is what people were thinking, specifically white men and white women. They don't want a Black person, specifically a Black woman, telling them what to do as a boss, anywhere, let alone be like the commander-in-chief.
Well, and so I was hearing a lot of things online too about women having real worries about women running the country. I was hearing women be afraid about a woman's ability to run the country.
Do y'all hate yourselves? Y'all hate yourselves.
They are secure in their position as second in the household, and they would like other women to do the same because they think that's part of what's wrong with the country.
Mm-hmm. Is that women don't know how to fall in line and shut the fuck up.
And so I think that's a piece of it too. There's another thing that's been going on. So something that was really disappointing about the election to me was seeing a lot of people who I thought were taking like really right-wing, kind of far-right takes online, then come out and be like, they were being like the entire time, I'm neutral. Even like a Rogan. Like, I'm neutral. And then either right before the election or right after the real election happened, being like, I actually voted for Trump.
Sorry.
And I felt a little gaslit because I was like, a lot of you guys, like your takes and the angle in which you were doing, specifically comedians, the angle in which you were coming from on your comedy podcast, very much seemed right-leaning. And in the same way, you were like denying it. You're like denying that's where you come from, what you're doing. So kind of
big
like
gaslight.
And I'm curious, I actually really want Gabe's feedback on this.
Speak, Gabe.
I've been dying to fucking talk for this.
Which is
you said the comedians thing, yeah.
Go ahead with the comedians thing.
If you remember, we had a slight little dust up about that. You know how my belief that you guys perceive this as a straight racism thing, and what I was saying is, to me, what I hear and what it, like overwhelmingly,
which is the racism thing,
that it's that people vote for Trump because they're racist, or that they don't, or as Rachel just said, that we don't want a black person to be in charge of us or something like that.
But what do you think about the DEI candidate thing?
I think that there's other vice presidents who have also dealt with that, you know, and I think that's a common thing when a vice president runs.
Who?
George Bush won, for instance. Like that was a thing.
How is he a DEI candidate?
Well, not DEI, but
I'm talking
just that
specifically about DEI, a reaction to feeling like the liberal left is taking it too far, and she's a reflection of that. She doesn't have any real value to bring to the table besides her identity. It's just identity politics. She didn't earn it in any other way. I'm specifically speaking to DEI.
Yeah.
And
no,
wait,
I think that's
people reacting to her that way or to the Democratic Party that way?
I think that is
a shunning of the Democratic Party for putting up a DEI candidate.
Right. They see her as like the shill.
Yeah, I think that it is about that. Like, it's about that, not race specifically. Even though race is a giant component within here, right? Yeah. But what I'm saying is, just like with the comedians, like the Joe Rogans, whatever, which let's be out front here that I'm not a Trump guy, did not vote for him, and like I'm not about that, right?
Did you vote?
But yes, I did for Kamala. But Kamala, there you go. See, I did that wrong too.
It's okay.
No, so like what I'm saying is that those comics too, all that started as a reaction to the same thing, which is the whole, it's this thing about the left that's like creating these rules. Like that's how everyone perceives it, is that they're putting these like like no one's doing anything right. We're all racist. We're all blah, blah, blah. And then now they put Kamala up, who, let's face it, has not won. Wait, what elections has she won to get here?
Well, to be clear, it was the fact that Joe Biden passed a primary, right?
Yeah.
And that initially they were talking about using her on the ticket because technically they were chosen together, and there was all of this concern about there being an ability to use the money that they had earned for the campaign because there's all those laws around that.
Right.
And so I don't think that this was about her winning anything. I think that this was about the fact that the Democratic Party has kind of operated in many ways just like America does as a corporation, and she was in their eyes the next in line, and so she got to step in. She was the only person that quote made sense in that moment, and I literally think that's the only reason she got chose.
I think that they have other people in line for the next couple ones. There's like a Kennedy. There's a couple other people.
I in my heart don't feel like they wanted to waste another person on this. Like, that's kind of how I feel, to be honest. Like, I kind of, in retrospect, feel like it was a Hail Mary. They set her up. And it was always kind of like, was she going to win?
Do you think she'll run again?
Oh.
Like, I don't think she ever had a chance. Like, you're right. I don't think the Democrats had a choice in that scenario, right? Like, that was just too short. Like,
it was very specific.
I mean, everybody's like, they should have run a different candidate. Who were they going to run?
Right.
Buttigieg, he tried that. It didn't work.
Well, so... back to I want to go back to what you were saying, but I think you kind of missed it. You weren't here when we had talked kind of in depth about the comedians, but there's a big piece of me that feels like they all became very profitable off of this movement of like anti-establishment, being quote like censorship and all of these things. And I feel as though they're still whining like it's impacting their career negatively. And I actually think it's the thing that's boosting their career, especially a Rogan, in my opinion.
And just talking about it is boosting their career.
I even see it in the ways that there are a whole bunch of guys who migrated from the left to the right under the cover of darkness, right? And now they're like emerging as this right wing kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so I see that and agree with it, but I know, and I don't agree with
names.
I'm saying I don't agree with where they ended up. But I know what inspired them to go there. And it's from all of the political correctness, wokeness, the things that, because there are too many things, in my view, that the left has done where you're departing from reality, right? Like it's not a meritocracy in certain things. And I guess I don't see that overall, but you see instances of it, I guess. And Kamala she had no message. Even though I find her to be sexy and I know she's intelligent and all that shit, but for whatever reason, she wasn't a dynamic speaker. She wasn't charismatic in that way that makes you want to follow her. I know she was like pleasant at best. You know what I mean? Like she just wasn't like, I don't know how someone, because she should be super intelligent. She was a prosecutor and it sounds like by all accounts she is. Right.
I didn't get that at all. I got.
Were you ever inspired by one of her speeches? Like,
no.
Like what's something she said that made you go, wow, that's great?
I wasn't inspired by one of her speeches, but I did think that the way that the things that she was proposing for the middle class were cool. Like I thought the child tax credit was cool. I thought the first time home buyer assistance was cool.
And specific.
Like those two things I thought were would have been really helpful. I think she was going to,
Just going to add a couple people to the court.
Yeah. I thought that's like, there were policy things. I think like when we're talking about charismatic and all this, it wraps up into also what you and I had talked about, which is that, and you and I as in Gabe, this, like some of this feels like it's about like a culture war. And that's kind of where my pushback is like, I'm not denying that people perceive it to be that way, that they perceive it to be like, all of these niche groups' rights are coming before the general population's rights, and these niche groups are being held up in a way they're more important than the majority of Americans. I hear that. I feel that sentiment online. I don't see it reflected in my day-to-day life besides irritation. So, I hear lots of irritation, and the irritation's valid, of like being policed, of feeling attacked, of being afraid of social judgment. However, I aside from Me Too,
Black and brown people literally experience it in a visceral way every day.
Well, just like aside from Me Too, I haven't seen any real consequences come from the words. There was a real thing with Me Too, and there was some real canceling happening for a short window of time. I feel like a lot of the things that people are worried about were already over the hump. They're no longer happening. And people are still writing on that culture world, those feelings and how they felt about it. And I think on the internet, it's being talked about a lot more than it's playing out in day-to-day life. That's my opinion.
Like that definitely could be true. Let me just say this real quick, because I have two instances that came up recently where like my old white man kicked in, kind of, where I'm just like, oh, what? LOL. But it was like my kid. So at their great elementary school that you guys are familiar with.
Yes, I went to.
They can't wear Halloween costumes.
Yep.
Like kids can't wear Halloween costumes now, and like you just think like it's just weird. Like it's like that was a cultural thing for our country, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of like.
Why can't they? What was the reason?
Because schools are going to non-denominational now. And even though Halloween is a
pagan holiday,
it's not even a pagan holiday. It's a commercial holiday.
Yeah, it's
they're treating it like it's denominational, right?
Right. And those things are things that come up that make people just go like, no, fuck, like more of that. So the perception becomes that's
denominational of what? I know this is specific, but this is blowing me.
Like,
right.
Pagan.
No, us too. That's how I feel.
I mean, what I think about more is that, and I'm not even saying I agree with this, because again, we were just talking off camera about like the value of like having to be with people who think differently and experience things differently. So showing up to school and having someone celebrate a holiday you don't celebrate, you probably know this, you Jew. It's fine. Yeah, you Jew. Yeah. It's fine. But what was I going to say? Oh, the Jehovah's Witnesses, like those are the only people I could see being offended because they're not supposed to participate.
How about we have Christmas coming up? Do you guys say Merry Christmas?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
To people who are Christian, I say Merry Christmas. Everybody else will say Happy Holidays.
Yeah.
I usually don't acknowledge
store or back in the day,
I got
called out.
So even the example that you gave, what was the second one? First was Halloween. What was the next one?
So then, so this is not the one. This is the third one I'm adding, but the Merry Christmas. But then the other one is, so for 4th of July, for instance, this year, you know how the city said, fireworks, like whatever, pollute, blah blah blah. So we're gonna use lasers or whatever, and it's just another thing where it like backs away. Like it's like, how fucking dumb is this shit getting? It's like we're losing our culture. You know, like.
And y'all don't care about the environment any other time. Be fucking for real.
Yeah, I don't ever believe that. That shit feels like it's about money. This is my belief many times it comes to like corporate, government, like anything like that. They decide what they want to do and then they create a narrative to back up what they want to do. That's my belief. Like, I don't want to pay for fireworks. So like, I'm going to do these lasers that are reusable.
Is super leftist though. You know, like the city council is.
Yeah. So here's my.
Wait, but the thing about like the Halloween example specifically is like, I just read something on NPR about like there being a wave of like evangelical or like very like conservative like Christian school boards. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's like that is the actual wave. Like, it's actually a conservative wave. Not just based on that article, but based on other things. Like, I don't get how...
But then Gabe would say that's a reaction to this.
It is. So that's exactly.
So here's what I think. The things that you said are, like, minor annoyances. And that's kind of my point, right? Is, like, why are we voting against, like, environmental... Like, the environment and, like, abortion as healthcare because we're irritated. Like, it's not that it's not irritating. It's not that. I mean, like, at the hospital, we don't do that shit. Like, the kids did Halloween stuff the whole day when they were hospitalized. It's already shitty enough they don't get to trick or treat. Mm-hmm.
But, like, you know, what I'm saying, though, is because, like, I'm not tying it to abortion, right? Like, I mean, that's what you're tying it to. What I'm saying is that those people
as an example
they're not tying, like, it truly is a matter of a culture war like that, where it's like, this shit's getting ridiculous. It's like they get emotional when the Halloween shit comes up. And you're right. It is a minor annoyance. It's not a big deal, but there are definitely more than 3. Those are just 3 that I came up with.
There could be 150 and I would still be like, it doesn't compare to healthcare. And that's what I feel like was on the line.
Yes. That's how I feel. Agreed. Or women's rights.
And this is my thing this is my whole issue with the abortion thing. My biggest issue with the anti-abortion stance isn't even being abortion. It's how many healthcare procedures are considered abortion.
Yes.
That's the issue, is like, I'm more worried about the women who actually want to carry their baby to term or don't want to carry their baby to term. And then there's some kind of complication as they're carrying the baby. Mm-hmm. And the way to save their life is an abortion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Those are like the things I'm worried about. So for me, this is where I go to. It's not fair because it's not even true. Like, I can poke holes in my own logic and I will right after this. But what I go to, my emotional reaction is how fucking great does your life have to be that's what you're voting for. Mm-hmm. However, that's not the reality. The reality probably is you have so little control over your life, but this is something you feel like you can fight against and control.
Yep, because that's the reality. All psychological. Voting is all psychological.
The reality is probably your life's shitty in a lot of ways. And so, like, you feel empowered by doing this counterculture
and taking back control.
And this is what I was going to say too. It's like, you got to take stock of that. Just in this is one of the worst fucking worlds I've lived in, right? As far as the economy and inflation and just all the shit going on. People are terrified because of AI and just people are like really unhappy. And the Dems took the stupidest fucking route by saying the economy is great right now. And it's like, yeah, it's great if you're a fucking millionaire or like if you own a shitload of stock.
Well, they're doing the slicing of being like the inflation rate has slowed, but they're not acknowledging the fact that the prices have stayed where they at.
That groceries fucking cost.
The prices are still the same. Like, yes, it's not continuing to grow, but the point at which it, quote, stopped at or slowed at is unmanageable for a lot of people. And that's the part that they're ignoring and not acknowledging. I think the other thing that I think was a trap for Kamala was that there was no way for her to separate herself from Biden, which is what she needed to do to be taken seriously.
Agreed.
And there was no way to do that because anytime she separates herself from him, then the response is, well, you're in power now. Why isn't this already happening? Why aren't you already pushing this? Or she's fucking insubordinate looking.
Right.
And a traitor and
people
not
don't wanna talk
loyal
about
to the person who put her in that position.
She's in the worst position ever.
That's a lose-lose.
Lose-lose, bro.
But she needed to separate herself from Biden in order to win, and she wasn't going to be able to do that.
They weren't going to let her do that.
I really think they just threw this shit to her in the last second and be like, wouldn't it be great if she pulled this out, but didn't think she was going to. That's kind of how I feel now.
It did feel like it for just a minute there.
It did at the beginning. Really maybe they needed to do it 3 weeks before the election because as soon as the excitement of people feeling heard from them switching candidates died down, everyone was like, eh.
Yeah, the DNC, the whole thing, that was like their big showstopper thing. They put all this, like all that into, you know.
That was actually said.
They gave Oprah $1 million, bro. That's what everybody donated to.
That was actually like played with as an idea behind the scenes, the whole like doing it more last minute, the whole Biden like step down thing. Mm-hmm. And now, you know, it was just such a gambit. No one wanted to risk it. But now you just look at it and go, it was their only chance. Yeah. Because we have a discontent nation and Trump did do he is a great salesman. He's great at fucking saying anything you want to hear. And unfortunately, in his very first term,
people just want to hear.
He actually delivered on his campaign promises more than any president ever has, which fucking really was a tough pill to swallow. And there are things that we're not doing right on the left that like we got to do better. Like we have to fucking get real to win elections. You can't just keep playing this kind of nice guy game, I guess. But did you see that Trump's share of black voters rose?
I did. And there was a lot of people who were really angry because they felt like black men were being blamed for Trump's win. But like,
I think it's women to blame.
Yeah, no, but numbers wise, even if a larger percent of black men voted for Trump, that doesn't compensate for just the sheer amount of white people. Like the numbers don't add up to that.
Agreed. But I'll say this. I can't believe how many of my friends, like black guys.
Are they all black men though? I don't know any black
women. Are like Trump. Yeah. What's that?
I don't know any black women who are.
Me neither.
Yeah, it's all black men. I actually know some black men who were spouting that shit a little bit, and I actually got to have open dialogue with them about it. And honestly, to sum it up, I'm fucking tired of the Democrats thinking they get my vote because I'm black. So fuck it.
Yeah.
That was the summation of every black guy I talked to about it. That was honest.
I actually got mostly it was like a anti-pussy kind of thing, like that our nation's getting pussified kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's like the overall man stance.
It is, but it's real. Like a lot of people feel that way, and it's getting. You know,
I just
want them to interrogate why they think that.
No, it's not even that. I just am like, maybe it's because I'm on the outside looking in. Like I'm in these spaces where like there's one of me or two of me, but I'm just like really used to dealing with minor annoyances and keeping it pushing. I just think that there are certain groups of people that aren't used to being pushed in certain ways, talked to in certain ways, mistreated, ignored. I think that's a lot of it is people feeling ignored that aren't used to feeling ignored, feeling like their opinions aren't being heard and don't matter. And that's not even saying like you should roll over. I'm not saying that. You know, I think there's something good about being expected to be treated well. But I think that like...
It's very entitled though.
It's not even entitled. I don't even want to use that word.
I was going to say those words are what everyone's reacting to all the time.
I don't think it's entitled. I just think...
Well, why not? Why isn't it entitled?
Because I think entitled means that you shouldn't expect people to listen and care about what you think and feel, and you should. Like, I just think that there's so many groups who are used to not feeling like people, because even like, to be honest, this is why the DEI shit pisses me off is like, I don't feel any more heard or seen at work at all. So like, I don't feel like it genuinely impacts my life in a real way. So that's why the DEI shit pisses me off is because I feel like it's for show.
It is.
But I just feel like so many groups of us are, specifically Black women, are so used to being uncomfortable, being irritating, feeling dismissed, feeling like we have to prove ourselves, feeling ignored, feeling like our opinions don't matter, that we scoff at the fact that other groups think that their opinions should matter and they should be heard. Like, get over it.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, like, I also think there's a feeling of like, motherfucker, it's our turn. Like, I heard Ta-Nehisi Coates say this, and he was getting interviewed about his book, The Message. And he said something
very fucking good.
He said something.
Just taught me how to say his name. Thank God. I've only read it. So like, I've always wondered. He
said something along the lines of, I hate to say it, but the oppressed rarely, break free from oppression and don't become the oppressor. Like, more often than not, the oppressed become the oppressor. And I'm not saying that Black people are the oppressor. They're absolutely not. Mm-hmm. Not saying that in any way. Mm-hmm. But what I am saying is a lot of the sentiment is like,
we can start
fucking finally. Mm-hmm. Fucking finally you're eating shit. Fucking finally you're feeling how we're feeling. Finally you get to feel what it feels like to be ignored and not heard. And it's our turn. And I don't even think, and I also think that's a perception thing, because I think that shifts and changes too, mm-hmm. right? But I think that it depends on what your goal is. My goal is to not catch the widest net possible. That's not my goal when I'm speaking. Mm-hmm. But if you're the Democrats, it kind of is your goal. Mm-hmm. And then kind of cut their legs underneath them, because the much of the country is white. Yep. By having that same sentiment.
Now you're pandering to everybody, and you can't pander to everybody.
You can't pander to everybody.
Yep. I totally agree.
And the other unfortunate part is that a lot of the like groups that they targeted and supporting, I'm super glad they're supporting those groups, but they're often full of people who are very far left and weren't going to vote for them anyways because of Palestine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, like,
and they were also one issue voters. Which
and that's the part that I actually don't respect. Is like, if you didn't vote because you're mad that Kamala Harris didn't fix systemic issues, and the only systemic issue you're mad about is Gaza, then you're a single issue. Mm-hmm. You're a single issue voter,
and you're screaming into the void, just like
it's the same way that people talk shit about somebody who like only votes for a candidate who's anti-abortion
or
like,
anti-trans
it's the same
or something.
Level of stupid. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Don't you guys like think in a way that it's like, to me, I'm just trying to protect my own like emotions in a sense, to try to like have some space between this shit.
Yeah.
And the way I'm trying to, at least that I'm looking at, is just we're in a bad economy. We're at a bad time. Like, just people are not optimistic in general, right? Like right now, I would say overall.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know any, like, I actually did this recently where I thought, who in my life is thriving? Like, truly fucking thriving right now. I have the people who I'd say are thriving are really just maintaining what they were. Like, they haven't had to take a step back.
Yeah.
Like, but there's so fucking few. It seems like everyone's got some challenge right now. And I feel like that is, we are electrical beings, right? And we transmit and we feel and all this shit. And I feel like there's like we're in that period of time. So whoever was going to win needed to inspire, and they needed to, particularly coming from being in control of a shitty time.
Do you think that Trump inspired, though, or
yes.
he tapped into fear? Because I
he
tapped into fear. I actually don't think there was a lot of inspiration. I think people felt
100%.
Validated, and that's why they voted.
Yes,
they
agreed.
Felt very validated by his perception of America.
But he touched people, however he did it. Like in the ugliest way. But yeah.
Because like when I think of inspiration, I think of hope. I think Barack Obama, like somebody who could sell something positive. I think he touched on fear, but I think they felt heard and they felt validated. And I don't feel like they felt heard or validated by any of the Democratic policies.
And what I would say is Kamala did not connect to people in that way.
She didn't, but how hard is it to compete against someone who's been in the political sphere for 10 years?
And a charismatic narcissist. Like, you can't compete with somebody who
will say anything.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the thing is like caring about, promising what you can achieve in a country like this. Like there's not much you're going to be able to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and people here, Americans love the idea of promise. We love somebody. Like we just love that shit.
Well, his message is like, I'm going to shake shit up.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and do.
Well, he's doing it.
He is.
By his picks.
I can't deny with some certain aspects.
That's what our founding fathers did. They shook shit up.
That's not true.
And it's terrifying in ways. Like his appointments have been fucking abysmal. Like hopefully they're bad enough where he can't get them through, but
that's not going to happen. It's the Supreme Court, baby.
Yeah, but like he has a lot of support within the Republicans. But yeah.
Outward support. I don't think so. I think he'll
not right now.
Do you think he'll become like the new Barack for the Republican Party, where like his sign off, his endorsement has meaning?
Yeah.
Kind of how Barack's daddy, like where everyone was waiting to be like, is he going to get on the campaign chair for Kamala? Like whoever runs after Trump, I think it'll be just like that.
Just Trump? Yeah.
I think for sure. So I think what will be really interesting is Trump is an egomaniac and he does not want to share the spotlight. He is not someone he's not going to help Vance become the next president, right?
No.
If he did, that would be terrifying because I think Vance could win the next, like it could be Republican.
Yeah, they're going for 12 years.
Right.
Yeah, baby.
But I think that Trump will not, like, I can see him actually blowing Vance up because he doesn't want to share that. Especially like, how old is he?
78.
Yeah, 78. Like, I believe Trump is going to get treated as a lame duck president. Like, he's going to have this lot of power here this next year.
Yeah.
Right? But it's all going to start to fray and fall apart. He pisses people off.
I don't think so.
He fucking annoys the shit out of everyone. He wields his power in a really clumsy way.
Republicans don't like him. His constituents like him.
Exactly. He's a populist. Yeah. He's not.
But he's surrounding himself by
but they're gonna get
constituents, basically.
He is. Like, he is doing that.
But they're people who are already wish-washy. So they're like committed to him now. But as soon as somebody like pokes or whatever, like it's going to fall apart like it did last time.
I think it will. Like, I mean, I really, and maybe I'm saying that to make myself feel better, but I actually do. I mean, I think it's true. Lame duck presidents don't.
That, even if they suck their dick right off the top.
Right. So this is a question to both of you. Can you be a moderate and vote for Trump?
Yes, I think people did.
I think people say that they're moderates and they voted for Trump, but I don't think they're moderates.
There was, yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you. I'm just saying, like, so you're deciding what a moderate is.
No, I'm saying, like, what is a moderate now is what I'm saying. Like, I feel like the parties are so far opposing. Like, what it means to be a moderate is different. Like, I don't even know what it means to be a moderate.
I mean, to your point last time, Kamala is a moderate, to a large extent, right?
Right, but a lot of the moderate candidates didn't see her as moderate. That's
what I'd say about myself. Like, I don't believe that she, like, it's like the party interests are too strong on the left, and I feel like she'd get...
Moderate moved more right, and so the new moderate is just, like, the new middle is more progressive, I think. But it's not left. Because the old moderate is what conservative is now. But I think moderates who are from like the old days who have always considered themselves moderates, they're not. They're conservative now.
I think you just nailed it. Like really what it is that the left taking on the identity politics when it did. I'm not saying that it still is necessarily today to the same extent, but it did it so severely, however many years ago that was now, that you have people like me who don't feel like they have a party. Like, the left is too nutty for me and is too, like, too much of the woke shit, too much of the whatever, no Halloween for my kids at elementary school, and then no fireworks. And that means...
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, I'm just saying that that's like the reality of it, right? Is that, and so it's like, I don't agree with them. And then the far right's a bunch of religious fucking nutcase, jobs are racist and all that shit. And it's like they're just people in the middle. Like, no one's represented. I think there's a lot of people who don't feel represented.
It's so hard for me to hear someone say the religious compare like... I
know the race thing is,
No, religious nuts and racism to people being too woke. And you know why I think as a Black person, why people talking about the woke shit bothers me is because I don't even feel like the Democrats did woke in a way that was for Black people. They did it for white liberals. So I also think it's hard because there's all this decisiveness in the name of us. And like it's not even what we wanted or asked for. And then everybody's being like, well, all this shit, not you. But people online are being like, the things that they did in the name of you have turned us off of this party so much, or in the name of trans folks, or in the name of queer folks. And I don't even see a lot of them being like, this is what I want. And so then there's like this weird dynamic happening where it's like people are so anti all the things that the Democrats are doing. But the Democrats, it didn't feel...
You just nailed it.
It wasn't a reflection of us.
I think that is it. Like, they're doing doing things that don't resonate with
They don't have a base
reality.
right now. They don't really have a base.
But I feel like the policy is closer to reality than the policy that Trump proposes.
Yes.
Like, that's the part that's hard for me. It's like, even if the rhetoric feels more relatable for a lot of people with Trump, but I don't agree with that. But if people feel like he's using plain language, he's being relatable, he's speaking to their feelings.
Yep.
I don't feel like, I just don't feel like the things that he's proposing are in any way based in reality. Like, they're not coming from a place of fact. Like, the problems in which he's saying, aside from immigration, I've heard everyone say they very much agree with immigration. I don't know enough about the border to know exactly what is propaganda versus what is actually like causing real harm here. I also have a lot of mixed feelings about the border because I have like kind of an ethical, we can go into it another time, but I have like an ethical quandary as an American because a lot of the people immigrating here are coming here because of
we're
us.
there. Because of us
Destabilizing in a lot of ways and us fueling and needing all the drugs and like,
speak on it, sister.
there's a lot of shit. I'm not even proposing open borders, all of that. I'm just saying, aside from immigration, I've heard people say that his proposals for the economy aren't going to be helpful, but at least he acknowledged that the economy is shit.
They're horrible.
Yeah.
No, his tariffs thing is absolutely.
So that's the thing is like, even if you feel like he's winning the culture war, like his cultural takes are more in quote reality, I don't feel like his policies are, and I feel like that's what actually matters.
And none of it is actually in reality.
But feelings are all that matter, right?
But just so funny because that's why the right hates the left, is because they think that's the left's take, is that feelings are all that matter. But the right's voting on feelings.
It's so
100%.
stressful. It's so stressful to listen to it and be like, people are eating this shit up with no like turning the camera.
And that's what you just have to look at. It's just a bunch of selfish monsters on both sides. That's my, like what you said about
the white liberal.
Ta-Nehisi
Coates is like what he said is what has been in my brain for the last 2 years very strongly, which is all I've seen in my lifetime is whoever's in charge turns around and whacks the hammer on whoever's below him.
Yeah.
You know,
and like I hear, like, as you guys heard me get sensitive that one night about like the whatever, talking shit about white people, right? And I talk shit about white people. I make fun of it all the time and I agree with it. But I gotta say, sometimes like you hear so much openly where I just think, just reverse that sentence. Like, imagine if that were said the other way, right? And it gets to be so common now that you worry that it's like, are we heading towards like some really like, you know, where I'll see people, I've been in a comedy room where they go, you know, like white men need to shut the fuck up right now. And everyone like cheered. And I was just like, is this a solution? Is this like how we,
I feel like in 400 years, check in.
But hold on. That's a funny thing to say. But like truly, if is that your solution? Do you want white people to suffer for 400 years?
No.
Okay. But that's how I'm saying that's being said enough.
But this is the feeling.
I'm not upset right now at all, by the way.
I know.
I'm just trying to say.
No, he's not saying come on to you. I just think this is the hard thing is like what you just described was like being dismissed in a room based on your identity. And I think a lot of people who feel like that happens to them have a hard time caring when it happens to you.
Totally agree.
And so like, I think that, do I think that it's the solution? No. And like, it's hard for me because being quiet and polite and doing things in a way that's like completely quote merit based, which is supposedly the system we had previously, also wasn't the solution.
And that wasn't merit based either.
No, that's why I said it in quotes.
Yeah,
but
right.
Also wasn't the solution. And so like, it's kind of like my big actually gripe with the far, far left. My big gripe with the super far left is you only have criticisms, no solutions, right?
Yeah.
And they say,
no,
like,
that's
we
what I say.
We don't need to come up with solutions. Well, you kind of do.
You kind of do.
You kind of do.
I care about like my immediate life. So like, I'm not willing to like burn down my life with the hope that like whatever pops up organically after we burn this down is going to be better than this. That's not good enough for me.
I feel that. I do think there's something to like having more, not this isn't you, but like having more imagination outside of like what we have though. And I feel like it's hard to like, it's hard to push imagination without being like, I actually don't know what's over the cliff a little bit. You know what I mean?
I do know. And I think there's validity, right? And like everyone, for instance, everyone who's saying like, don't vote. Like, let's just all play out. Like, I think a lot of the leftists were being very cynical and we're kind of like, I hope Trump wins and ruins everything.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
so
want
that people feel like revolutionized, which is not what would happen. People would feel demoralized and stop trying.
Exactly.
But like, I just feel like all of their alternative solutions, you could also be doing those things while voting. Like voting didn't discount any of the other solutions you brought up. The grassroots organizing, the showing up for community members, the doing things in your own space. Like voting didn't take away from any of your other agendas.
Facts.
Like none of your other agendas.
Do all of it.
And you still weren't willing to do it.
Yeah. I don't agree with the no voting. I don't get it.
But like my thing back to like the right and like these feelings of being dismissed, like I think that there's this, and you could call it an overcorrection. I think that would be fair to say, but I think that there's this big experience of like, you guys are the last group. We think your feelings and voice matter inherently just because you exist. And we're going to strip that away from you because nobody else has that. And why do you get to have it? Why were you raised with the belief that you have value just because you exist? And it's funny because everyone's striving to raise their kids like that now.
Yeah.
But I think there's the like, we're going to strip it from you because why do you think you're entitled to that? You have to earn it. Just like I feel like I earned it. And I think there's a lot of resentment because I think there's a lot of white men looking around at people who they feel like didn't earn their position and scoffing at them. And we're all looking at you like, we're not sure you earned it.
We're not sure you earned it. And we want them to have a little taste of what that experience is. I'm not saying that's right or wrong.
It's not the solution.
No, it's not the solution.
But I just feel like also being quiet isn't the solution. Right. So what do we do?
Do you guys remember? So there was an episode where Gervais talked about, being... like what I think is a perfectly rational stance on the Israeli-Palestinian shit, right? And I think you got your first pushback of people going like, well, you're an anti-Semite then, or whatever. Like you're
100%.
anti-Jew, right?
Yeah.
To me, that was like a perfect encapsulation of what it feels like to be, a white man in this culture. And I know no one's fucking crying. I'm not
asking you to. No, we're having an open dialogue of why people voted how they voted.
But you do deal with that like so fucking much all the time that it is one of those things where it's like when you're constantly told that your motives are different than what you know they are like on the inside. And when that becomes culturally acceptable to say that, it's like, what the fuck? Like, I'm on your side. Like, why is this? It's odd because it's like, well, I've lived a life in a certain way that I know,
So there's this thing, though, where I think, like, there's a couple things to that. One, I hear you. And when people said that stuff about me being anti-Semitic, I thought it was annoying and moved on. Like, that's literally how I felt about it. I literally was like, this is annoying and moved on.
But what if they were still saying it today?
And they probably are.
They are saying it.
And that's probably why I don't check the comments that much. Because I don't want the social pressure to influence how I get on here and talk.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not saying I'm Teflon. Like it definitely impacts you. I don't know if you were here when we had talked about this, but I think it was also different when you were here. It was also different when there was more social consequences to being called those things. I think being called those things on the internet has less and less say. Like every year.
I disagree with that completely. Like if you are a far right person, it doesn't affect you as much. But if it happens to me, it's enormously consequential.
What happens?
I can lose like business. Like, I mean, someone can accuse me of being racist and I could lose clients. What do you mean where?
Like what social platform? Like I'm not talking about like interpersonally with people you know. Like if someone on Twitter was like, I think that your clip was racist, do you think you would lose business? We're talking about the Jewish
I think it is possible, I guess. And I think that corporations like behave in that way now. Like, I mean, people can, I don't know, like that does matter. I just don't, I've never seen a white person in my walking life who would not care about being called racist, except for people who are racist. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
like it's like the
difference of opinion.
There's something about like how white, and I'm mostly hearing white men talk about this. I know it's white people in general, not just white men, but like,
and I'm,
and not unisex.
I just want to say again, I'm not asking for anyone to feel bad for white people. I actually think it's healthy that we have this period of white people sort of like feeling this, that it's part of the process. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. That I think it's part of a transformation. It's almost healthy for everybody. Like, it's almost a leveling. I don't really think it's a leveling. I don't think it really does anything.
Well, it won't.
But to what you're saying, like about
this election results, it actually did the opposite.
No, I know it's not real. It's not a real leveling. But I think, like in theory, like in my mind, it's like if there was a leveling, if there was some sort of equitable wherever, it's okay to feel that. It's what you've been saying. Like, it's okay to feel that discomfort. And white people or a lot of white folks are saying, we want to be able to say whatever. We want to be able to make these jokes. We want to be able, their wokeness is like canceling us and whatever. But then they don't want to hear what you were just saying. It's hard on me to hear about white people ain't shit. White people ain't shit. But like, if you want,
a lot of the wokeness is giving feedback of we're tired of how you talk about us, and you're saying they don't want to hear that.
They don't want to hear it, but they're giving out the same thing. So I think it's just confusing for me. Like, it's not a real free for all. Like, y'all are saying you want a free for all, so let it be a free for all.
Yeah, I think.
But
it's still a vindictive stance. It's like an emotional, malicious stance to be like, well, we got it, y'all should get it. And I don't know. It's
childish, I think.
It is a little childish. Yeah. It's an eye for an eye.
I don't even know, because it's only childish if it's for no reason. If it's because it's what we need for social change, then it's not childish. And I don't know the answer to that. This blew up in our face. But I think a lot of people thought that this pressure to be more empathetic to these more niche groups was going to actually have people think about it more. That's not what happened. Mm-hmm. But I think the intention of putting this pressure on, no, you've been in the spotlight for a really long time, and you've been told you matter, and we're going to actually we're going to let you know it's not that you don't matter, but you don't matter then more than other people. And some of these things that have happened in your life and some of the places you are in your life, unfortunately, you have gotten there a little bit just based on the fact that they thought you were valuable because of how you showed up in the world and what you looked like. And so we're going to take that away. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, that does need to happen of you have been in a lot of ways put on a pedestal unintentionally. You didn't climb onto the pedestal. Yeah. We all put you there. It's not like you chose it, but we're going to pull you back down. And I don't know anybody, even if you do it graciously, who's not going to get pulled down kicking and screaming. Facts. I don't think it's an inherent white person thing.
No, I don't think
so. If a black person is the one in power, but it's really hard because when we pull you and we're like, no, we're trying to be equal now. Calm down. A lot of the feedback we get from white men is, I don't have a problem being equal. It's how you're telling me to be equal. And I don't buy it. I'm not saying I don't buy it from you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't buy it from you, but I don't buy it. No, I think...
En masse, I don't buy it.
En masse, I don't buy it. I think it's about not truly believing that you were in a position of power because you're a white person and feeling like you're being punished for being white. I don't feel like a lot of people feel like they're getting pulled to being equal. I feel like they think they're being put below black and brown people or being asked to be.
Yeah, I think that's true to to some degree.
Yes, and we're talking in generalizations, right?
Yeah, no, of course.
So there's this.
I'm really not excised at all, just so you know. But
no, I don't think you are. Yeah, no, I don't think you are.
I like this discussion.
So I think there is. I think it's this really hard balance of getting pulled back in any way is going to feel like you're losing something. And that's going to suck regardless of how softly someone does it. And a lot of the feedback is you're not doing it the right way. And I'm like, there isn't a way that's going to feel good to have to level the playing field. It's not going to feel good. And it's going to be messy. And there's this requirement where people are holding and gripping and being like, no, it can't be messy. It has to be this certain way. And it's it's going to suck. And I'm not saying it's fair. And I wish I could do it in a way that's not going to suck. But I think where a lot of black people come from is it's been sucking, motherfucker. And I'm not, again, that's not an empathetic place to come from.
It just is.
And I guess, so this is great, I think, because I think we're kind of landing on what this really is, because
I agree.
Because what you're kind of saying is that it's sort of what I've felt from some people, right? That it's it is your time to suffer, motherfucker, kind of like that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what a lot of the pro-Trump, I think that everyone feels that on some level, whether you kind of know it or not.
Yeah.
And I think that the Trump people are kind of going look, we we fucking let you get here, motherfucker. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. And now we got to suffer for it. Fuck you.
Yeah.
And that's,
it's the same
But the difference is there's it's just like the far left. There's no proposition of how to change the way things are going now differently. They're just shitting on the way that people are trying to create change, but they have no interest in helping with the solution of okay, I really don't like how you're telling me my opinion doesn't matter, but hey, maybe we can build in more time for you to speak too. There's none of that.
This is exactly what I'm saying. That it's perfect because that's what it is that. So what I'd say is that Trump, from a historical perspective, he is a reaction to the woke movement when that happened.
He was a reaction to Obama, too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe whatever.
But I think white people can,
because he also
Obama
started a lot more conservative than he was.
Popular voice or vote in a huge way.
No. It was the feeling of there has been a cultural shift that I think some people were on board for, and I think by the end of Obama's term, they felt like it had swung too far.
Maybe
specifically when he went pro-gay marriage. Like I'm thinking of like the evangelical Christians. Mm-hmm. Like I'm like when he went.
Oh, they drive a lot of this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like specifically when he went pro-gay marriage. Mm-hmm. I think when he started being like more openly talking about doing for Black folks, like I think there was a lot of shifts, and like when he was on his way out, that people were like, whoa, and then it just kind of continued from there. And then the next person they ran was Hillary, and everybody saw her as her own DEI candidate, but white woman version. And I think in a lot of ways, Trump has benefited from those things,
and the Clintons, like that whole thing of just and this also hurt Kamala?
Yeah.
Kamala.
It's so hard because two sides say it different.
No, it is hard. I used to have to correct myself all the time. Like it's really, it's just, Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I was just going to say is that she also does, like, at her best, she was business as usual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and no one's happy with that.
She said, I'm going to follow the law.
That was the argument with, my friend who was considering voting for Trump is what we landed on once we got past all of the big feelings about it was simply that I would rather have the status quo of the last 4 years than Trump. And he was considering, I'd rather do the wild card.
That's
fuck the status quo. That's where he was at when we boiled it all down.
Which is very male.
Those were the differences of how we felt.
That's how I felt for Trump the first time around. Like, even though I did not want him to win, once he did, I was like, well, whatever. Like, how could it get worse? Like, like that was my thought. Like, might as well burn it down.
Roe v. Wade.
Right. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, shit. Just like I used to beg for a president who would talk like a human being. And then we get a dude who talks like he's sitting on a bar stool. Like, you know what I'd do? I'd go into Iran and blow him up with some fucking nukes. And it's like, oh, that's him. That's his foreign policy. It's like bar stool fucking foreign policy.
Yeah. Here's another interesting angle I thought of. Do you guys think that people vote? I should say not people. Do you guys specifically vote for your individual, like for the benefit of you, or for what you think is the benefit of the collective? Or do you think they're together?
I think they can intertwine. I, in general, try to vote for the collective.
That's very
because I feel like it benefits me. Voting for the collective in general, I feel like benefits me.
What's an example of that?
Even though, in theory, not Trump, but in theory, voting conservatively would benefit you financially. Do you think that?
I think voting conservatively would benefit me financially.
Not Trump, but
in general. Yeah. Like if I had voted for McCain, like whatever the thing is, even a Democratic, whatever.
Yeah.
It would benefit me financially. And I think but I'm not in the tax bracket where it would really, really help me. Mm-hmm. It would help me a little bit. And I think it's okay if I don't. Like it's not at the top of my list to have to like make millions. Like
do you feel like you're voting for yourself and you are voting for the collective? I just wonder.
Yes.
Black woman. So
yes.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking what's an example of it, because I'm trying to think of something because in a way I think voting Democrat has sort of started to veer against my self-interest.
Yeah.
Right?
Why do you think that?
Yeah.
Because of the identity politics, just the things that you guys are representing, right? Like, is that I'm not necessarily like.
And I feel like it's not representing my interest because it's not left about. It's not left enough for me.
Yeah, and it's just I guess I don't feel connected to either party right now, so I don't really even know how to answer. But I'm trying to think of a way. I think that's a very interesting question.
People were saying like the Democratic Party has to find its soul again, or it needs to find its base again, and I kind of agree with that. I don't think it feels like they're just kind of, when the voter, like you said, Gabe, you're a voter without kind of a party.
Yeah.
Or a lot. And I've heard that like a couple different times, but it feels like that goes with a lot of people feeling the Democratic Party is just like, there's nothing in it.
It used to be farm labor, right?
Yeah.
Like it used to be for the working man and all that shit. And now it doesn't feel like that.
John Kerry was like that. And yeah.
Like that's what he is brilliant at is he somehow made a bunch of fucking yokels believe that this guy who has a gold toilet is actually like you.
He's
yeah,
handing out
like
McDonald's.
as if he'd respect you or like you, like he'd be disgusted with you.
Right.
Mhm.
But whatever, like they all buy. I don't understand his hold over like the populace. It's cult-like to me. It's freaky.
He does use a lot of cult
language.
And he's very repetitive with the way he speaks.
What do you feel about that?
About what?
The whole like Democratic Party. I've heard it's not. I feel like I'm taking that point from other people.
Who does it represent now? I think that's a good question.
Yeah,
like
that is a better question.
Yeah,
Maybe.
who does it represent?
I mean, I think what they were trying to say is it represents everyone. It's like pro-America, like the rising tides lifts all boats kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people believe rising tides lift all boats.
Yeah.
I believe rising tides lift all boats.
In theory.
But I admit when I just said that, my flash was like, who does it represent? I thought of Kamala. Like basically people who are brown, like basically everyone who's not white.
Yeah, but then like
I'm not saying that's the truth.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that that's how that was my flash feeling.
Yeah. But then I feel like, and again, I feel like it's the same thing of like, she is the person of color a white liberal would think. Not you. You're not a white liberal, but what a white liberal would think reflects a person of color, because I think
she's a safe one.
I think every person of color was like, you are like a POC, which is not really what we respect. Like what we respect is somebody who has their own culture and identity. Like, yes, we talk about race all the time, but a lot of the times when we're talking about race, we're really talking about culture. We're not really talking about race. It's actually not, you're not inherently born a certain way. We're talking about culture.
When people are saying you're black,
and she
it's like
didn't have a culture.
Yes.
She didn't feel like she
people kept calling her a grifter.
She didn't feel like she outwardly participated in black culture. I'm not saying she didn't. That was just the feeling and sentiment.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like she represented Indian culture. Mm-hmm. And that's what like black people and brown people are looking when we're looking for authenticity, is we were looking for ourselves represented and reflected, and we weren't seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was going to say that too. Or that's why I wanted to ask if you guys saw, because I heard about this many times, but I never saw it. But apparently she represented, like she shifted a little bit how she represented who she was. Like
she's very girl bossy.
Well, no, like I heard, and this is all like probably rhetoric from the right. So I'm not saying this happened. I'm just saying that I heard stuff that like she was representing as if she was a black woman sort of for a while. And then now she's downplaying the Indian aspect. And I don't know.
I feel like she was always representing herself as a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that. She always was black. It was never that she wasn't black. That was how I felt in my heart when I saw her, when I looked at her. She was a black woman with an Indian mom. That's how I felt when I saw her. The issue, I think, is like, for instance, Barack Obama. Like, he was a black man, but in a lot of ways, people felt like he represented black culture also. Mm-hmm. Like, he wasn't just black because he looked black and he was proud to be black. It was the way he talked. It was the way he showed up. It was the way he talked about the church. It was the fucking playlists he put out at the end of the year.
Singing psalms on the pulpit.
There was something about him that was familiar and felt like he would be at your family gathering. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even saying she wasn't that, but that wasn't the feeling and sentiment I was getting around it. Like, only black women were like, yes, a black woman president. It didn't feel like anyone else, even black men didn't feel connected to her, which I think was bizarre.
She felt insincere to me. Like, I mean, in a very odd way, like not fake like Hillary feels.
Yeah.
Like Hillary feels straight out fucking fake, like a robot. Kamala was like just kind of, I don't know. She's like a substitute teacher. Like she had the
But I think it's okay not to like her and you can still
measured.
vote for her.
I just feel like she was really, really measured and reserved. I feel like she was really measured. She was really reserved. She stuck to her talking points. And people called her out on that. And she was like, well, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, I also think this was a fight between like, do you want a president that you have a beer with, or do you want a president that's like, you think would run the CEO company? Okay.
Everyone wants the beer one, by the way. They always are the guys that win, and that's how they say it. That's what they used to say about George Bush, too. He's the kind of guy you'd have a beer with.
Because people like celebrity and want to have beers with celebrities.
It's just like it's a popularity contest. It's a fucking popularity contest.
My opinion.
But it is.
No, it's all,
I know
it's
what
all
it is.
political theater, but it shouldn't be.
But it shouldn't be.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's all theater.
And I think that, again, like, as black women, like specifically the way we're like socialized to view a lot of things, like I think for us it's like, well, we're not out here trying to be liked, like, so we don't care. You know, and I
Right.
think that's very specific to Black women.
I think it is too.
Yeah, Gabe can back us up. Like, that's not
As
the
a guy's
goal.
trying to
So,
date
like,
him.
who
Yeah,
gives a fuck? Like, Black women respected that she didn't care about being liked. Nobody else respected it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just Black women.
Mm-hmm.
White women were probably appalled.
I feel like white women loved her, but obviously they voted for Trump, but
They said they loved her. They didn't really love her.
They didn't really love her. Your vote's private. You know how many people were banking on the fact that women were going to get in the booth and actually vote for her, even though they weren't
Give a
saying
fuck
it in
about
the
your
polls?
uteruses. We don't.
That's what astonishes me. How many women voted against that?
That's what people, this is...
on both sides, right? Like, it blows me away.
Democracy doesn't matter to people with money. You have money.
It wasn't even about that. I think, like, they weren't women. A lot of them weren't women with money. I think it's Christianity, and I think it's how.
Right, me too.
And I think
evangelicalism.
and I think it's not just about abortion. It's about how you view women's place in the world, what you feel women's value is, and I think, just to be honest, I think a lot of women were like, "But you're not a real woman. You don't have kids." Like,
oh, that's interesting.
Why? Like,
she's not one of us.
Of course, you are pro-abortion. You've never had a baby of your own. You probably aborted babies. Like, and that's not. I'm not saying it's not fair, but I just think that that's a lot of it. I think that there's a lot of women who pride themselves on being apolitical and voting what their husband votes. I think there's a lot of women who want to return to the home and feel like she's like this eighth wave feminist. How dare she want to be president? Like, I think
people got sucked into the Nara Smith shit and we're like, we want to go back to that.
I just
what does that mean?
The trad wife thing.
The trad wife, traditional wife.
Oh, okay.
And they voted for Trump.
That's true.
Yeah. So I think Christianity plays a big role in it, like a huge role in it. And I don't think they care if he's actually a Christian. I think what he represents their values more.
They clearly don't care if he's a fucking like.
So
Christians don't care if they're really fucking.
Let's end on this. How was it like being a therapist this week? Were your clients in a wreck?
Yeah, people were pretty upset.
What were people's like overall feedback?
Most people were discussing how annoyed they were with the white liberals in their life, honestly.
Really?
That's really what was coming up. Their husbands or partners or distant family members or people on Facebook. Obviously, it's like the existential Trump, God vote. It's all that stuff. But the specific irritation that was coming up for them is kind of having to carry that as people of color, as Black women, as a queer person, as whatever it is. All of them people of color. All of them Black, actually. And having to watch white people have meltdowns actually around Trump, or having to watch white people be so like depressed and sick about this and being like, are you kidding me? So it's kind of the thing that we were talking about is like, I think was kind of nauseating for them to have to watch that from up close and afar.
Like a lot of white liberals feeling like their world is collapsing, and then the Black person coming to you and being like, oh my God.
And they're saying the world is like, it is that bad, but it's always been that bad. And having to hold you up and support you through this meltdown is like too much for me, is what I'm hearing from a lot of my clients.
Fuck, that's how I feel about everyone. Just seeing
I think so too. I think a lot of people are feeling that way.
Get over it. Like, life goes on. Like, let's fucking.
But they're having a hard time with it because they're people that they love or care about or whatever it is. And I think it's almost shocking them that they're like feeling kind of disgusted by these people or kind of turned off by these people. And so holding both of those things mostly just right now and not having to make decisions about relationships. But
I'm really sad
about it. Do they feel the white people are performative?
Yeah.
Like, when they're married to them, I mean. Because that like freaks me out to think of that.
I'm thinking about one specific client who they talk about it together, and there's other things in context, but she doesn't she could tell him how she feels, but he's still torn up about it. Like there's nothing to really do about it other than, she's coming in therapy and expressing her feelings in therapy so that she doesn't.
I think that I'm
encouraging her to have conversations with her partner. But
do you think that a lot of the meltdown is around like white people being shocked and surprised? Do you think that's what the partner is?
I think it's that, but I think it's the taking up space. They would like their partner. I think they're used to being in these kind of like post-racial relationships. If they're in an interracial relationship or just whatever the configuration is, they're used to feeling aligned with their partner on liberal stuff. They're like on the same path, right? They're anti this, they're pro this, they're feeling aligned. And then this thing comes with they voted the same, all this stuff, and it's still irritating. I think that they wish that the other people were catering to them in that way. They're like, you should be taking some onus in this and holding me up. Let me fall apart or something like that. Let me not have to carry so much, but I'm carrying
because you as a white liberal communicate to me all the time that life is harder for me, and yet in this moment you want me to take care of you. Like you as a white liberal are saying that like this is everything that happens in this country is worse for me, and yet you're falling apart like this is happening only to you.
It's that, and
not specifically your client, but just in general.
Yeah, I think it's but it's also like I don't even want to. We're not in this together. And they're kind of surprised that they're having those feelings about a partner or a best friend or whoever. Like the white person is saying, I can't believe this happened to us. Or I can't, and it is us. But they also, I think they're wanting that person to kind of say, I'm sorry, we did this to you. I'm sorry. Like they're kind of wanting a little extra something, I think.
I'm not anti it.
No.
Fascinating.
No.
I would expect an extra something if I was with a white liberal who was working from the racial framework of this is harder for you than me. But then you're saying that out loud, like you think black people have it worse, but then the same thing happens to both of us, and I have to take care of you. That doesn't align with what you're saying out loud,
right? And so these people, either they're there and they're bringing that to session, or they're having trouble finding that language, and I'm helping them with the language. And just like sitting in that feeling that they're having this, and I'm encouraging them to have hard conversations, kind of.
That's why it makes me think like the dude. I'm not saying your client necessarily, but like any guy doing that, white guy, that he'd be being performative, like that he's amping it up to let her know how. Like he's trying to support her.
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't sound, based on what she's telling me about this person, it doesn't sound like it. And based on like how she generally talks and their life context, all that stuff. And I actually think it's what Gervais is saying. It's almost not worse, but it's a different angle to be like, I know this person is being genuine, and it still annoys me. I
agree. No, I get your guys' perspective exactly, actually. But it's true. I probably wouldn't think of it. If I were in that situation, like you're freaking me out with my dating black, like that you could be.
But you're not communicating that
exactly.
But you're not somebody. You're not somebody who's.
I wouldn't do that, but
you're not somebody who's communicating. Like think of the like the woke white liberal.
Right.
You taking up all the space in this moment is anti everything that you say.
Totally get it. Yes.
You aren't that person, so it wouldn't be anti you.
Right.
But it's just weird to even think of being in an interracial thing and having outside stimulus fuck with your relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like
absolutely, and it always does. It always does. That's like even with the and I'm not saying anti-interracial anything because of that. But anytime you have cultural differences,
it's going to be there.
Outside forces can impact your relationship, specifically if the bond of your relationship is even though we're culturally different, we have the same value. So anything that pops up that says, maybe you don't have the same value on this, people freak out.
People freak the fuck out in their relationships, bro.
Freak out.
Do you know that interracial relationships have like lower divorce rates?
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, much lower.
But there is something to it. I think they tend to ignore a lot of stuff. They're like, no, that's not us.
Or
that's not us.
Maybe the positive thought process of it is maybe you entered into that relationship knowing you have differences. And so you are able to work through those differences and be on the same page because the foundation of your relationship isn't being the same.
Maybe try a little harder.
Is it possible that you just say like, well, clearly he or she is not racist or whatever. Like we're together. We love each other. So it's like they're insulated from that stuff. Maybe. I don't know if that's possible.
I think some people definitely feel like that. I think not everyone does, but I think some people
certainly
do.
Not. Yeah.
Ask me how my clients were this week.
How are your clients this week?
It never came up once.
Yeah.
Ever.
Wow.
Do you think that's because of the population or because they're kids or
both?
Yeah.
Both.
Sorry.
I've been really sad. I'm sad about it. I'm really quietly sad. I haven't been talking to anybody about it. I haven't been open about it. I'm really sad. I'm taking it really hard, and I haven't really processed all the reasons why, but I'm taking it very, very hard. And I have just like decided to check out from like all the pics and stuff. I'm just kind of like all of his cabinet pics, like all of that. Like I'm making a choice to just watch it unfold.
Yep.
And to put it into its proper place. And it's not about, the proper place isn't about importance. It's about my level of impact that I can have, which is not much.
Yep.
But I just feel really sad. I'm really worried about
it's really
the women
in
I'm
the
really
South.
worried about further like bans on female rights, and I'm really worried about all of the women in the states who like need abortions and can't get them. And I just feel a lot of sadness in my heart for it. And
People
I
are gonna
feel
die, bro.
really sad about women not voting for women. And I'm not even surprised. I'm just really sad about it.
It's so upsetting.
Do you guys know that I almost texted you like 2 days after?
Really?
And I was going to text you and just whatever, just to say like, and then I'm like,
Thoughts and prayers.
probably, yeah, like just whatever.
No, I feel it. Yeah. It is thoughts and prayers. What is that called? Concepts of a plan. We have concepts of a plan.
Yeah.
No.
Why didn't you text us? Why'd you change your mind?
Because it felt,
like doing that thing.
like putting myself, like kind of making myself important in your life or something when it's like, hey, whatever. It was just awkward, maybe.
Send us a text in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
I think the worst part was going to work the next day and
I can't even imagine, dude.
with all these rural white nurses and like,
knowing
pep in the step.
That's the one thing
Pep
I
in the
was
step.
worried about for it. And I got to say, overall, I did not see a lot of spiking the football. And I was very worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
That the next day that like everyone's going to be.
I saw it online, but not in person. I
Yeah.
didn't see any spiking in person, but there was a lot of spiking in line.
You know what people were saying is that at sports games they saw a lot of people wearing MAGA hats instead of like you see at the New York Yankees game. People were saying the New York Yankees hat is like the most famous fitted ever, and like people were wearing like MAGA hats at like the World Series. Like that's kind of nuts.
Well, I think there were a lot of people who felt shunned for supporting Trump and are feeling
vindicated.
Yeah.
Free right now. Like,
Free.
oh my God, I can breathe. I knew that Bob
Freedom.
in the office also voted for him and we were just both too scared to say it.
Oh,
we've been
good
oppressed for
insight.
so
I think
long.
that's true. I think
Yeah.
you're exactly right.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm seeing that. Yeah.
100%. On that happy note, we should hop off. I know we've been shooting forever. We shall move on. It will be fine. The world will not end, hopefully.
But we'll be talking about this. Bye,
Nonstop.
Nonstop.
You guys been through way harder shit than this.
I'm worried about the planet. I really am.
Yep.
All right. Bye.
Bye, guys.
It's the end of the weekend, but I still wanna turn up. Yeah, I still wanna turn up. All I want is to go again, but you ain't picking your phone up. Why you messing my head up?
MBC. No relation to NBC.